attendance. If there's no other business, we'll move on to item 3.1, Statement of Estimated Financial Position 2019-2020. We have a mover. Councillor McMahon.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that pursuant to section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the statement of estimated financial position for the previous financial year 2019-20 be received and its contents noted.
We have a seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.2, Adoption of Budget 2020. I would like to move that pursuant to section 169 and 170 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council's budget for the 2020-2021 financial year, incorporating the Statement of Financial Position, the Statement of Cash Flow, the Statement of Income and Expenditure, the Statement of Changes in Equity, the Long-Term Financial Forecast, the Revenue Statement, the Revenue Policy, and assessment of business activities to determine if they meet the threshold for classification as a significant business activity, relevant measure of financial sustainability, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges levied for the financial year compared with the rates and utility charges levied in the previous year, estimated activity statement and supplementary table, new capital expenditure and one-off projects and work in progress projects as tabled be adopted. Do we have a second for that?
There's just one word change.
What did I say? Previous?
You said previous year.
Previous year.
Let's make that previous budget.
Previous budget. I'm happy to make it previous budget. Does everyone understand that? Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? So I'll speak to the motion. Well, this is a fantastic day for the Maranoa. We are in a situation that I believe this budget creates economic growth in the Maranoa. It also allows opportunities for more employment, and it is a situation where we will be drawing a line in the sand about population decline, and the Maranoa will be a place where it will be an economic zone to create economic growth through affordable commercial and industrial charges. One of the issues that we are facing in rural areas all over Queensland and Australia is population decline, and this budget has so many facets to support locals living here, and with the changes that have happened with COVID-19, I expect that more and more people will see the benefit of moving to rural areas, and we need to make the settings on the ground to encourage efficient and competitive local business. A couple of the main points is that we have a situation that we have $40.81 million spent on our road network in the Maranoa, which I believe is the largest network in Queensland based on population. And we have many challenges that we need to make hard decisions with. But this rates and the general charges that are happening in this budget are working on how we can improve the Maranoa. One of the big thing is some of the capital expenditure that we have been helped by the state and federal government through grants, and the community will see many, many things that are delivered in this 12 months that will benefit all of our communities in the Maranoa. So I believe this is a turning point for Council's budget, and we look forward to growing the Maranoa in the future, and I believe this is a start with this budget. Would someone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It is with disappointment that as one of the new councillors sitting around this table that I'll be voting against the first budget of this term of council. The budget process has been a long, extensive, informative and thorough process, with many hours of meetings where there was sharing of information, questions, answers, debate and negotiations around the table, and where there were some great decisions made for the benefit of the whole Maranoa region. I'm excited about the list of projects that will enhance the livability of the region if this budget is endorsed today. But disappointingly, there was no appetite for negotiation on the rating scenario 1A updated for the 2020-2021 budget. Being a new councillor, I believe that as part of preparing a budget, there would have been room to negotiate so that all councillors could get to the point in the negotiation where they could endorse the proposed draft budget. But this was not the case when it came to discussing the rating scenario 1A updated. It was disappointing that most councillors kept very quiet when asked to put forward a reason for voting on the rating scenarios, with the Mayor being the major contributor to the debate on behalf of the 1A updated rating scenario. Mr. Mayor, I recognise that you and your Unity team campaigned on a rate freeze across the region, and I would have been happy to support a rate freeze across the sectors with a 30% increase of oil and gas and work camp sectors, which was scenario 7 of the options. Scenario 1 updated, which is what has been proposed, is not a rate freeze as was promised in the campaign, but in fact it is a substantial reduction for some sectors and a substantial increase for other sectors. I simply cannot support a budget that reduces the commercial industry by 65% while increasing the oil and gas sector by 70% and work camps by 120%. The reduction would see the commercial industry sector rates being reduced to the same as they paid in 2008. This is a reduction of 12 years and I believe a backward move. This council has quite a few business owners and they would know full well that the cost of running a business does not go down but actually rises by at least CPI each year. As my family owns a business in this sector, I can't agree with this reduction and don't believe it is a responsible decision of council. According to the information provided as part of the community consultation for this budget, the residential minimum rate and levies will be well below the peer group benchmark and the Maranoa will be the second lowest. The rural rates will stay well below the peer group benchmarking and the commercial and industry will fall to the lowest of the benchmark councils. I would like to acknowledge and thank the community for their feedback on the draft budget and assure the community that I have taken on board their feedback in my decision not to vote for the 2020-2021 budget. Julie, thank you to you and your officers who worked tirelessly throughout this budget process. My decision to vote against the budget is by no means a reflection of the budget process. You and your officers have been very thorough with providing the councillors with all the information and recommendations to make an informed decision. I'm very concerned about the impact this budget will have on the future of the Maranoa. By decreasing the commercial and industry rates by 65%, it will take many, many years to get the rates back in line with CPI, therefore impacting future councils and having the potential in forcing them to make extremely hard decisions to increase rates, which would have a serious negative impact on the ratepayer. I believe small increments of increase is much easier for ratepayers to meet than a massive rate increase in any 1 year. The word freeze in the dictionary states an act of holding or being held at a fixed level or in a fixed state. This is what you promised in the campaign, Mr. Mayor and Unity team, not a decrease in rates. In closing, I urge my fellow councillors to not vote for this budget and to vote for a responsible budget where there is a true rate freeze for all sectors except oil and gas and work camps, which would have a 30% increase in rates. Option 7, which would be in line with predictability. I implore you, fellow councillors, to think about the legacy this council will leave for the future of the Maranoa region. If this budget is endorsed today, it will see a short-term gain for a very, very long-term pain for our entire region.
Okay, would anyone like to speak for the budget? Or for the motion, I should say. Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the budget? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was prepared for the Unity Group to go forward with the rates freeze, as that is what they went to the election with, and though I was sure it was not a way to go, the Maranoa backed them by voting for them. So I was prepared to be a team player and adopt that scenario, but that's not what's moving forward in this budget. We as ratepayers know someone has to pay in order to achieve. We are happy to help our town achieve its goals, but a 65% reduction in commercial and industrial rates is not, I believe, smart business, and people don't expect it. The commercial and industrial ratepayers of our region have been hammered in the past, but it is in the past, and moving forward, we still need to pay our way, do our part as a community. That's what makes us a community. I own commercial and industrial land, and I didn't come to this table for my benefit. I came to try to give back in some small way to my community. If this motion gets up, 58% of our revenue will be coming from the oil and gas. A lot of businesses in town will suffer if they decide to pull back from our community. Our commercial and industrial rates may be cheaper, but that's no help if our premises are empty. We are about to bite the hand that helps to feed us. As one company says, it shows disregard for and devalues the importance of local investment, local jobs, local spending with small and family businesses, and social investment in our community groups by oil and by gas companies. The sad part for me in all of this is that there's no room for compromise, no room for debate apart from those of us that were against it. We were not a team in this. We did not shape this scenario together. This is what the Unity Group decided and are moving forward with. I do agree with all the expenditure of this budget, but I cannot vote for this motion. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Just a couple of short words. I won't say too much, but there's been continual talk about a decrease in rates. Well, that's effectively correct, but we are resetting the rates at an affordable level, I believe. There's been a lot of misconception out in the public about it all. Some landholders are even of the impression that they're going to cop the 70% or the 120%, but that's not the case. It's all on petroleum leases. And the only other thing I would like to say, I think it's just the reason for this, I would hope, there's been comments said about it take a long time to get it back where it was. Well, at CPI increases, it'll take a long time to get it back where it was, and there still will be a good financial availability for council on rates.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've had the honour of representing the Maranoa community for 8 years, with this being my 9th budget. In every election I stood for, I campaigned on a number of priorities, all with the goal of securing a long-term future for our region. It's imperative that this council has a long-term vision to ensure the next generation can call this place home. The development of the annual budget is one of the highest priorities we are tasked with as councillors. It is an inclusive process and one that must be developed without fear nor favour. Back in 2012, as a newly minted councillor, I found the budget process daunting, and it was the wealth of information, reports, modelling, scenarios and project development and budgeting provided to me by expert staff that helped to guide me as a councillor in getting across the complexity of running a multi-million-dollar government. I can safely say that has not changed in the 8 years that have followed, and I must thank and congratulate the staff for the role that they have undertaken in ensuring this term of councillors have the breadth of information that has been developed and provided to understand the task before us. I believe this is the most information and analysis provided by staff in my 8 years, and rightfully so, as the impacts that some of the scenarios that were presented are staggering. I believe that each of us in this chamber are well informed on the consequences this budget will have on our region into the future. Each of the councillors of this chamber have taken an oath of office and have committed to upholding the 5 principles of local government: transparent and effective processes and decision-making in the public interest, sustainable development and management of assets and infrastructure and delivery of effective services, democratic representation, social inclusion and meaningful community engagement, good governance of and by local government, and ethical and legal behaviour of councillors and local government employees. When we make decisions in this chamber, it is incumbent on us to reflect on these principles and make decisions that are in the best interest of the region. After reflecting on these principles that we are legally bound to uphold, I cannot, in all good conscience, support this reckless, fiscally irresponsible and short-sighted budget. Let me be clear, I accept the result of the election. The Mayor and his Unity Maranoa team stood on a clear platform of freezing rates, but that is not the rating scenario that underpins this budget. This budget includes a reduction to industrial and commercial rates by 65%. It includes a reduction of residential rates of 25%. It includes a freezing of rural rates, and it includes a 70% increase in petroleum leases. By decreasing the industrial and commercial category by 65% in one budget, it drastically devalues the investment this sector makes to delivering services for our community on an annual basis. Reducing this investment by 65% takes their contribution to a value that predates amalgamation in 2008. This is a backward step and will have a lasting ripple effect on the long-term sustainability of our community. I'm also deeply concerned by the plan to increase petroleum lease rates by 70% in 1 year to balance this budget. The impact of this particular decision will have far-ranging and unintended consequences for our region. I'm sure that this sugar-hit budget will be popular with many in the short term, but make no mistake, this sugar hit will be temporary. If adopted today, the councillors in this room will be saddling a future council with a ticking time bomb that will need to be corrected in the medium to long term. And who is going to hurt most in that correction? The residents and businesses that will be on the receiving end of rate increases required to rebalance the investment required for the rate base to deliver the services and invest in our assets. In 10 years' time, when pensioner Mrs Jones goes to the letterbox, opens her rate notice and is confronted with a 50% or more increase on her residential rates, it is the people in this room that will be responsible for that impact. Or when a small business in Mitchell opens their email and sees their annual rates notice has increased by 65%, how can they possibly factor an increase of this size in their budget without impacting on their viability? My message to fellow councillors is that yes, populist decisions are the easy ones to make, but that doesn't make them right. For the wrong reasons, this budget has raised the eyebrows of other councils across the state, government officials and industry bodies, who are perplexed at the short-term direction this budget is taking. I know there are important projects in this budget. There are roads to be maintained and upgraded. There are investments into key organisations to drive the future of our region. There are upgrades to our facilities which are needed to ensure that we are providing for our communities. I have no objections to these priorities and in fact I support them. But the plan to pay for them with a flawed rating scenario is what I just cannot support. Through the budget preparation, I supported holding rates, freezing industrial and commercial, residential and rural at the exact amount that they paid in the previous financial year. I supported an increase of 30% to petroleum leases. There's a level of predictability on a rise of 30%, as it is the same increase that they experienced in the 19-20 budget. This scenario would be in line with the election commitments of the Unity Maranoa team on a rate freeze, a reprieve to commercial and industrial, rural and residential. But I find myself continually disappointed by the inability of some in this chamber to listen to the advice and the opinions of other councillors and staff and make compromises in the best interests of the community. A former councillor recently told me that the hardest task they undertook as an elected representative was equalising the rates post-amalgamation. Sadly, if this budget is adopted, a future council, I believe, will have to do this once again. Our small population, relative to just under 59,000 square kilometres that we in this chamber are responsible for, along with the over 5,000 kilometres of roads and the facilities across the region, is always going to be our Achilles heel. But when we back ourselves, invest in our own future, we can leverage the support of the other levels of government. I'm not a business owner in this chamber, but having spoken to a number of businesses in the past 10 days since the budget went out for community consultation, which was greatly supported, I can share with this meeting many are scratching their heads as to how charging rates at the value of pre-amalgamation is smart business. These business owners are also questioning how it is fiscally responsible to increase any category by 70% in just 1 year. These are questions I've asked myself and cannot answer. The Mayor says this budget is an economic stimulus that will transform our region, but the cost of not investing in ourselves, pooling our resources, contributing to the services that we all use and expect, particularly our town residents and businesses, will have long-term impacts on your council's ability to maintain and upgrade our assets. I'm a proud Conservative. I believe in lower taxes and I want to see more money back in the pockets of our residents and businesses. But this budget that will see us unsustainably reliant on one sector, the oil and gas, to keep us afloat. I'm a team player and it pains me that for the first time in my 9 years in local government, I'm having to vote against the adoption of the budget. Serving the people in the Maranoa, on the Maranoa Regional Council, is truly one of the most rewarding responsibilities of my life, and I'm committed to ensuring that I leave this region and this council in a better place than when I started. But with the adoption of this reckless and irresponsible budget today, I'm sorry to say that a future council, its residents and businesses, will be saddled with the burden of fixing today's mistake if this budget is adopted.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, I'll sum up. Just on the comments, I believe the comments are misguided and come from a totally different mindset in regards to having to fix the issues of this budget in the future. There will be no fixing of the issues of this budget. This is setting a new benchmark for affordability in the Maranoa. And I'd also like to take issue with the fact that one category goes down for one category go up. That is not how I would ever operate. The issue here is about stopping population decline. As I've been mayor for 4 years and been going around and watching communities decline in population, businesses look at shutting, I believe that this only brings it back to a normal level. The business owners that I speak to all over the region have a preoccupation with not being able to pay their rates, and it is a major concern in their business. It may or may not be less of a concern for landlords, but it is a major concern for the businesses paying the rates. We need young people to come and move to the Maranoa and be able to start businesses that have a wide spectrum of industries that are available to start here. We are competitive. We need to be competitive with anywhere in Australia. This is the start of that process, and I believe it is thinking that's not in the local interest to be thinking that you always have to put things up and you can never reset rates in line with community needs and expectations. one of the big things is that I see the pain in people's eyes, listen to their stories, and I believe that this is a very, very sensible budget. And I will definitely be working with council on how we can run more efficiently, get out of this government mindset of always putting things up. Now, I believe for all ratepayers, we should be working in the future on how we can reduce costs by operating more efficiently. This is not about cutbacks. This is about efficient local government working at its best. And when councillors put the challenge out to individually inside council, the community benefits. And I'm looking forward to a golden age of Maranoa Regional Council with the support of this budget, stimulating so we have population growth in the Maranoa and stop the decline. So on that note, we will go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I call for a division. Okay, item 3.3, debt borrowing policy. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd move that council adopt the debt borrowings policy for 2020-21 as presented.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Anyone wish to speak? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.4, differential general rating categories and description 2020-2021. We have a mover. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1, pursuant to Section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the categories into which rateable land is categorised, the description of those categories, and pursuant to Section 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the method by which land is to be identified and included in its appropriate category below as listed, and 2, delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power pursuant to Sections 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land belongs.
We have a seconder. Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.5, differential general rates 2020. I would like to move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 80 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category, and pursuant to Section 77 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the minimum general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category be as set out the table below as listed. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. So, after set out, L, could we have in, please? On the bottom line, after set out. Cool. So in the table below for clarity. Okay, do we have a seconder? Or you already did that, Councillor Edwards. Any opposition to Councillor O'Neill? Okay, I'll speak to the motion. I believe that this is part of the most exciting day for the Maranoa, and this is part of an excellent budget that will deliver in so many ways to the people of Maranoa. Councillor O'Neill, would you like to speak? Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we're going to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Item 3.6, setting the limit of the increase in the amount of general rates 2021. I would like to move that Council, as required by section 172(2) of the Local Government Regulation 2012, but subject to paragraphs A to E below, records that pursuant to section 116 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the amount of the differential general rate to be levied for the 2020-2021 financial year on the categories of land identified in the table below be limited to an amount no more than an amount equal to the amount of general rate levied on that land in the previous financial year, increased by the percentage identified in the table below as listed, item 1 to 78. The limitation of increases in the differential general rate will not apply to land where A, there has been a change in valuation other than the revaluation of the entire local government area during the current or previous financial year, or B, there has been a change in the land area during the current or previous financial year unless that change is the result of the council or a state government entity acquiring by agreement or compulsory acquisition part of a parent parcel, thus creating a new rateable assessment, the original parcel less the part acquired, in which case a limit or any increase will continue to apply to the new rateable assessment, or C, a discounted valuation under Chapter 2, Section 50 of the Land Valuation Act 2010 has ceased, or D, there has been a change in the differential rating category of the land during the 2020-2021 financial year, or E, the differential rating category of the land in 2019-20 financial year changes in the 2020-2021 financial year. For land on which the rate levied for the previous financial year was for a period less than the full year, the differential general rate for the previous year will be annualised, and the limitation applied to the annualised amount in accordance with section 116 2B and 2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Okay, do we have a seconder?
I think in B, just on B.
Would you like me to bring you this?
Sorry,
Correct, yeah.
that's it, thanks councillor Berkeley.
So what did I say?
Or instead of on.
The last
Last
one.
line.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'll say that,
Yeah, if you're just happy to.
on, in which a case limit on any increase will continue to apply to the new rateable assessment. Okay, we're all clear on that. Do we have a second to that motion? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.8, sewerage utility charges 2020-2021.
Trigger.
3.7. Sorry. Item 3.7, water utility charges 2020-2021. We have a mover. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that one, pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges for the supply of water services by the Council, as set out in the tables below as listed. 2, pursuant to section 102(2) of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a water meter is taken to have been read during the period that starts 2 weeks before and ends 2 weeks after the day on which the meter is actually read.
We have a seconder. Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.8, sewerage utility charges 2020-2021. Councillor Burkett.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy sewerage utility charges for the supply of sewerage services by the Council as set out in the table below, titled Sewerage Utility Charges.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.9, waste management utility charges 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services, including the collection, removal, storage and disposal of general waste by the Council, as set out in the table below, titled Waste Management Utility Charges. 2, waste management utility charges are levied on all premises where Council's agent is prepared to provide a refuse collection service. A minimum of one charge will be made and levied on each separate occupancy, and such a charge shall apply whether or not a service is rendered.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, 3.10, Pest Management Special Rate 2020. Do we have a mover? I'd like to move that pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate as follows. Pest Management Special Rate, a special rate to be known as the Pest Management Special Rate of 0.0001785 cents in the dollar on the unimproved capital value of all rateable land to which the overall plan applies, to fund the cost of pest management, including pest animals and pest plants across the Maranoa. B, the overall plan for the pest management special rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of pest animals and pest plants management across the Maranoa, including meat and factory baits for 2 coordinated wild dog baiting programs in ad hoc baiting, wild dog bonus payment for scalps, and the treatment of high priority pest plants in accordance with Council's pest management plan. B, the rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as category 39, rural in the 2020-2021 financial year. C, the estimated cost of carrying out the activity, the subject of the overall plan is $572,000. The pest management special rate will be levied at an estimated $297,000 towards the total estimated cost of carrying out the activity. D, the estimated time of carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specially benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide management of pests, both animal and plant, so as to improve the agricultural activity on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders. Do we have a
I'll just show the,
C or D?
The C got put 4, Karen, did you?
will levy.
D, yeah.
Will levy, yeah. Yep. Happy with that. Any others?
Just in D, you said,
You said all, so 4.
Okay, and I'll just repeat D again. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. Okay, everyone clear? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 311, State Government Precept Special Rate 2020-2021. We have a mover, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate as follows. The State Government Precept Special Rate, A special rate to be known as the State Government Precept Special Rate of 0.000245541 cents in the dollar on the unimproved capital value of all rateable land to which the overall plan applies, to fund the cost of the State Government Precept charge, research and on-ground works. B, the overall plan for the State Government Precept Special Rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of the State Government Precept for the wild dog barrier fence, pest and weed research and on-ground works. B, the rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as category 39, rural in the 2020-21 financial year. C, the estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $408,204. The State Government Precept Special Rate will levy an estimated $408,204 towards the total estimated cost of carrying out the activity. And D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specifically benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide maintenance and renewal of the wild dog barrier fence and pest and weed research, including on-ground work, which is provided by the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, DAF, so as to improve the agricultural activities on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders.
Specifically.
Thanks, Councillor Burkett.
What did I miss?
Oh, no, you said specifically instead of specially.
Oh,
So you're happy with
yes.
that? Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, 3.12, Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I move that one, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge, as detailed in the table below, on all rateable lands serviced by the Rural Fire Brigades for Amby, Mungalala, Yulbar and Orange Hill, to contribute to the operational costs of firefighting and the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the Rural Fire Brigades as follows. Rural Fire Brigade Amby, special charge on all rateable lands serviced by each Rural Fire Brigade is $74.58, Mungalala $74.58, Yulbar $74.58, Orange Hill $50. 2. The overall plan for the Rural Fire Brigade special charges as follows. A. The service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is to contribute to the operational costs of firefighting and the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the Rural Fire Brigades that operate throughout the areas of Amby, Mungalala, Yulbar and Orange Hill. B. The rateable land to which the plan applies is all rateable land defined by Queensland Fire and Emergency Services, QFES. Rural Fire Service as being serviced within each Rural Fire Brigade boundary as identified in the QFES administrative map for each brigade. C. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $20,580. D. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. 3. The rateable land or its occupiers especially benefit from the service, facility or activity funded by the special charge because these Rural Fire Brigade units respond to emergency fire calls.
We have a seconder, Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.13, levy and payment of rates and charges 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I move that number 1, pursuant to Section 107 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and Section 114 of the Fire and Emergency Services Act of 1990, Council's rates and charges and the State Government's Emergency Management, Fire and Rescue Levy are levied for the first half, for the half year 1 July 2020 to the 31st of December 2020, in September, October of 2020, and for the half year 1st of January 2021 to the 30th of June 2021, in March, April 2021. Number 2, pursuant to Section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the Council's rates and charges and the State Government's Emergency Management, Fire and Rescue Levy be paid within 30 days of the issue of the rate notice.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
We'll just change that to be levied. 8.1. Yours is right. You're happy with that, Councillor Guthrie?
Definitely.
And we don't need the old.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 315, discount on rates 2020-2021. 314, total value of changes in rates and utility charges. I'd like to move that Council adopt the following. Number 1, pursuant to Section 169.6 and 169.7 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges budgeted to be levied for the 2020-2021 2021 financial year compared with the rates and utility charges levied in the previous budget 2019-2020 financial year is 20.31%. For the purpose of the calculation of any discounts and rebates are excluded. Do we have a seconder?
To this. Let's just leave it as is.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. And we have a seconder, Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6.3 if I can call for division. 3.15, discount on rates 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I move to move that pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rates main and levy shall be subject to a discount of the percentage set out in the table below. Discount on differential general rates 5%. If paid within the discount period of 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice, provided that A, all of the aforementioned rates and charges are paid within 30 days of the date of the issue of the rates notice. B, all other rates and charges appearing on the rates notice that are not subject to a discount are paid within 30 days after the date of issue of the rate notice. And C, all other overdue rates and charges relating to the rateable assessment are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 316, interest on all overdue rates and charges for 2020-2021. I would like to move that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the level of interest is set out as, number 1, compound interest on daily rests at the rate per annum set out in the table below. Interest on all overdue rates and charges 4%. Number 2, and is to be charged on all overdue rates or charges. Council has determined that rates or charges will be determined as overdue for the charging of interest if they remain unpaid for 60 days from the due date of the relevant rates notice. We have a seconder.
2 minutes.
Sure.
So that
Well, unpaid after 60 days, is it? No, no 4 needed.
is set as, yeah, so the out that the mayor read wasn't needed.
Okay, let's do that.
That remain unpaid.
On daily balances or something.
Yeah, I think the mayor said for 60 days, it's unpaid after, so what Carol's got is right.
Right, I'll read that again. Council has determined that rates or charges will be determined as overdue for the charging of interest if they remain unpaid after 60 days from the due date of the relevant rates notice. Everyone understand that? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrokes. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.17, rates and charges rebate and concession policy 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbrokes.
I'd like to move that Council pursuant to sections 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt 1, a rebate of 50% of the individual general rate be granted to all ratepayers who are pensioners and who are eligible for the state government pensioner recession to maximum amount per annum and set out in as follows: 50% of differential general rates up to a maximum dollar value per annum of $234.76. And number 2, the rates and charges rebate and concession policy 2020-21.
Councillor Ladbroke, in point number 1, it's a rebate of 50% on the differential general rate.
Yep.
The second line, it says state government pensioner remission. And also 50%, in the next point, 50% of the differential general rate. No S. No,
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't need the council, it's just that pursuant. And I think there was one.
There was an
Did
extra.
anyone else pick up?
There was an extra in the bottom last line in number 1 per annum as set out in as follows.
Yeah, as set out in.
Oh, set out, sorry, the in was missed.
Yeah.
And did you say at the top, like, it's not, the recommendation's not quite correct, it should be on instead of off, or it should, you want it as off, on point 1,
a rebate
on,
of 50% of the differential general rate.
He didn't say differential. That's what it was.
right, do you mind just reading that again, please?
Yep. I'd like to move that that pursuant of sections 1, 2.
2 sections.
What's that?
Pursuant 2 sections.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 2 sections of 120, 121 and 122 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council adopt a rebate of 50% of the differential general rate be granted to all ratepayers who are pensioners who are eligible for the state government pension recession
Remission.
to a maximum amount per annum as set out as follows: 50% of the differential general rate up to a maximum dollar value per annum of $234.76, and 2, the rates and charges rebate and concession policy 2020-21.
We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 318, Significant Business Activity Assessment 2020-2021. We have a mover. Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to move that the result of the significant business activity assessment be received, noting that no further action is required.
We have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.19, Code of Competitive Conduct 2020-2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council not apply for a code of conduct at this time to enable the new term of council to undertake an in-depth review of the costs of the following business activities: building certifying activity, quarry operations, sale yards operations, waste management, airport operations, water and sewage services, gas operations, road operations, mainly main roads contracts. 2, during the 2020-21 year, undertake a review of both the direct and indirect costs attributed attributable to these activities to ensure that the full cost and any associated subsidies are transparent for the general ratepayer. 3, undertake a further assessment of any public benefit in applying the Code of Competitive Conduct upon completion of the review.
Just one word.
Sorry?
Just one word, competitive in the first line.
Not apply the Code of Competitive Conduct, sorry.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.20, Development Infrastructure Charges, COVID-19 Stimulus Concession Policy. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I move that Council number 1 adopt the Development Infrastructure Charges COVID-19 Stimulus Concessions Policy as presented. Number 2, grant concessions on development infrastructure charges in accordance with the Development Infrastructure Charges COVID-19 Stimulus Concessions Policy.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.21, Register of General Costs, Recovery Fees and Commercial Charges. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to move that Council 1 receive and note the report. 2, adopt the updated register of general cost recovery fees and commercial charges. 3, resolve that in relation to those cost recovery fees to which Section 97 of the Local Government Act 2009 applies. 1, the applicant is the person liable to pay these fees, and 2, the fee must be paid at or before the time the application is lodged. And 4, delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to amend commercial charges to which Section 262(3) C of the Local Government Act 2009 applies.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Thank you. Is there any further business, councillors? Yeah, and I'll just, before I close the meeting, like to thank the CEO and the staff for all the work, tireless work they've put into preparing the budget documents
And the gallery.
Yeah, and all the budget documents and the late nights and so forth in organising the budget documents. So thank you for all of your assistance. It is much appreciated. And I'd also like to thank the gallery for being in attendance for our budget meeting for 2021, and thank you for your attendance.
I'd like to special mention of Director Sharon Frank and having a budget coordinator seated and the directors as well. So there's 7 of us on the books. Thank you.
No problem, and thank you. And on that note, if there's no other business, we'll close the budget meeting at 10:43 a.m. and thank you for your attendance, councillors.